Hello again, everyone. In this session, we want to look at group policy preferences. Group policy preferences are a set of extensions first introduced in Windows Server 2008. Group policy preferences increase the functionality of group policy objects. These extensions are accessible through the Group Policy Management Console, and they include advanced settings for folders, map drives, and printers. You might ask yourself the question, what is the difference between a policy and a preference? Thus far in group policy, when we have configured group policies, we have clicked on policy and not preference. The policy is a setting that the administrator configures, which applies to OU, and that OU will have a user or group or computers. And the user cannot change the policy. The administrator will enforce that policy, and that user has to abide by whatever the settings in that particular policy. Preferences, on the other hand, are settings that even though the administrator configures that setting can be customized by the user. As I said before, we will see when we configure preferences that preferences add a lot more functionality to group policy. When you configure a new preference, you can perform the following 4 basic actions: create, delete, replace, and update. For create, you're going to be creating a new preference setting for the user. You are able to remove an existing preference setting for the user. For replace, you can delete and recreate a preference setting for the user or computer. And for update, you can modify an existing preference setting for the user or computer. In our session today, we're going to be taking a look at preferences, settings for printers, drive mapping, and power options. We're going to configure the printer preference by going into Group Policy. So we're going to click on Tools, Group Policy Management. We want to expand our domain, and we want to expand group policy objects. We already have the policy that we're going to be working with, and it's called Class Trial Policy. So we're going to right click on that policy and click on Edit. On the user configuration, instead of clicking on policies, we now want to click on preferences. Preferences has 2 nodes here, window settings and control panel. The one that we want to access is control panel because we have printers on the control panel. So we want to right click on printers, click on new, shared printer. We want to put the share path for the printer, so we're going to click into the box here, and we're going to paste that path in. Now we want to go to the Action menu here, and we're going to click the down arrow. And we said before at the beginning of the session that these are the basic actions that we can take: create, replace, update, and delete. So we're going to use replace for our lab. Then we want to click on the common tab here. I want to say apply once and do not reapply. Then we want to click on OK. And we have shared the HP color laser printer as a preference. And the user can change that preference. If it were a policy, the user would not be able to change the policy. So the user can go in and the user can customize the settings for the printer preferences. The next group preference we will look at is creating a mapped drive using group preferences. We want to access group policy management. We're going to expand the Contoso domain. And we already have OU called Finance OU. We're going to be creating the preference on that OU. Going to right click. And we're going to say create a GPO in this domain and link it here. And we're going to call the policy drive mapping. We're going to expand the Finance OU and we're going to edit that policy by right clicking and clicking on edit. We want to select user configuration. Instead of policies, we're going to click on preferences. Then we want to select Windows settings. We want to right click on drive maps and select new mapped drive. In the location area, in the location box, we want to type the name of the shared folder. We already have a shared folder prepared called My Share. So we're going to type the name of that shared folder. We want to click on Show Drive, show this drive. We also want to click on Show All Drives. We want to select Create from Action. And then we want to choose a drive letter on the drive letter that we're going to map this folder to. And we're going to choose G. On this mapped drive preference, we want to turn on what we call item targeting, where we actually target a specific user. So we're going to click on Common. We're going to click on Item Targeting and select Targeting. On the new item, we're going to click here. And we're going to select User from the drop-down box. The name of the user that we want is Ben Smith. So we're actually going to type Ben Smith in the user box. Then we want to click on OK. We want to select new item again. So we're going to go back to targeting, click on new item, and this time we want to choose security group. We're going to click on security group. And we want to select a security group. And we know that the security group that we want is called Finance OU. So we're simply going to type it in. Finance group, sorry, not OU. Then we want to click on OK. And apply. Click on OK one more time to close that box. You see here that we have the drive mapped on the G. The name G is the name of the drive letter. And the path is the My Share path. The action is create. We want to make sure that we do a GP update. So we're going to go to the PowerShell prompt. And we're going to type GP update /force. I can see the policy updating. The policy updated successfully, so we want to close the PowerShell window. Now, when that user, Ben Smith, logs on, the user will see the map drive and will be able to open the file in the folder, the My Share folder, and create new files within that folder. So that is a demonstration of using group preferences for mapped drives. Next, we're going to look at the policy preference for Power Options. And we're going to create a GPO again on the Finance OU. We're going to call it Power Options. And we want to edit the Power Options GPO. We want to select User Configuration, Preferences, Control Panel Settings, Power Options. We want to right click on Power Options and say New Power Plan. We're going to choose Power Plan. And here you have some choices. You can leave balance as it is, or you can put high performance or power saver. We're going to leave balance for our exercise. We can say set as the active power plan. We want to make a change at display. For display, you see that we can turn off display after. Adaptive display, we can choose that. Let's choose the first one. Turn off display after. We're going to expand that setting. And we have two choices. turn off the display on battery or plugged in. So let's do the on battery. And we're going to say turn off battery after. And we can choose what we want here. And we can also choose the plugged in to turn off display after. We want to choose the number. We're going to choose 21 also. So we can choose any one of the settings that we want: sleep, power buttons and lid, processor power management. With the power options, you can choose settings like prompt for password when computer resumes from standby. Power button settings, power schemes can be created, replaced, updated, or deleted. You can also create your own power scheme since you're using preferences and deploy it to your clients and make it the active power screen by clicking set as the active power plan here. We can also be a bit more granular with the preferences. Remember, we had said that the preferences have a lot more functionality than the group policy itself. So we're actually going to say that we only want this policy to go to Windows 8 computers. To do that, we have to do item targeting. So we want to click on Common, Item Level Targeting, click on Targeting. Now we want to select New Item. And we want this time to choose not user but operating system. And what we're saying here is that we want to choose Windows 8 only. The edition, we're going to choose 64-bit professional. And we're going to leave the release at any and computer role at any and say OK. What we're really saying here is that we only want this policy that we set for power options to apply to Windows 8. And under the new item, we could have chosen lots of different things. And this is one major difference between the preference and the policy setting. The preference gives us a lot more functionality where we can actually select and limit the type of policy that we want and whom we want this policy to go out to or to apply to. And not only the user or group, we can also do other things. See, we have, like, if I click on new item, you can see that we can do on computer name, CPU speed, disk space, all of those things we can target when we are creating the preference. Want to go ahead and say OK now. Want to apply and say OK again. I see here we have the power plan option and the list is Windows 7. We targeted it to go to only Windows 8. So it will only apply to any computer that has the Windows 8 operating system. So we have looked at 3 preferences, group policy preferences in our session today. Printers, map drive, and power options. We also saw the power of item targeting, which we did not get when we would have done policies. This is the end of our session, and I want to thank you for listening.